out of the country seem to involve going across the channel from Dover. So you'd have to take the Dover Road,
and this takes
you
close enough to
Canterbury to see the cathedral. That's if you're looking for it.
You need with you now for the journey. Have you got any of those bags or anything like that, your money and cameras or what have you?
The week before we left, this ferry, the Pride of Kent, was one of the two P&O ferries listed as not meeting modern safety regulations, so it was just as well it was a flat calm when we crossed.
Still, we've got to cross
safely enough, all right, on the day.
We were on our way.
We were on our way.
After a night on the bus,
the second night was spent in a hotel in the village of Angath, about 30 miles east of Innsbruck. Typical
Austrian
countryside and typical Austrian building.
There's one of the
rooms. Very nice.
Very pleasant, very
comfortable.
And that's the view
from the room. That's the river in there.
An exhaust manifold
started to blow
as we were heading up
towards London. One of the drivers was a mechanic, and he was able to fix it. We didn't have any more trouble after that. Spotted from my balcony. That is definitely a ski run in the distance.
One of the few that
had snow on.
Now, caught
these three lads, not exactly napping
in their room.
Just thought I would get them to show you
that they had
decent rooms and accommodation. See how it's followed. We'll leave it open. Oh, I see. We point down the bath. No, the bath. That's it. Good.
That evening, Mr. Keys
handed out what I saw. The first evening meal of the trip provided by the holiday company.
I can't even
remember what it was now. The camera couldn't deal with the focus there, but we also had packed lunches.
And
these were to be
handed out later
on after we packed up the bus to head off down towards Rome. Plenty of drinks on board, as you can see.
Last wash
and brush up before we actually set off from the hotel in Austria
for a
reasonably long journey down towards Rome. Sorry about that.
This is
the road approaching the Europa Bridge, which is
very, very high.
I think it's supposed to be the highest bridge in Europe, and it is
something
approaching 600 feet
in height
at its highest point.
And the drivers
told us the tale of how the centre of it has its pavement railed off so that people can't commit suicide and drop down onto the old Brenner Pass road. The road ascends up to the Brenner Pass on this spectacular raised motorway.
And then we actually
passed through the Brenner Pass. Some of the children thought that this was the Italian border, and it was confusing.
But this is the
real Italian border.
I think this is where
many of us felt the holiday was really beginning.
Vineyards.
We
saw a lot of
vineyards.
And plenty of
tunnels. The road was pretty spectacular.
For quite a long way.
Tunnels and raised sections and more tunnels. And look at that, some lucky devil off skiing.
More vineyards.
And in this part of Italy, confusing because the signs are in Italian and German. And just see how many different names there are on this sign. If you were looking for one of them, in Italian or German, as you were flying by.
Very confusing. After the vineyards,
acres and acres of fruit trees, pears, apples,
and all of the trees
trained
so that they were
particular heights. And those poles are watering poles, so they can be automatically watered. Industry still has to go on, even if it's surrounded by mountains. And if you've got to live in a tower block, well, why not in those?
And look at these rocks,
sedimentary rocks, beautifully layered and folded, a geologist's and geographer's dream. Perhaps they ought to have a field trip here. Look at those, very spectacular. Then you're down on the plain, out of the Alps, and it was time to stop for lunch.
Those packed
lunches which you saw earlier on
were distributed.
We thought it better not to let the children have them in the bus.
Been everywhere,
and some of the children would have had nothing to eat by the time we got to lunchtime. What's inside there, lads? Let's have a look. An apple, yeah. What was that? Chocolate bar, so I can see it. An egg. Is that coloured? I mean, I can't see because it's... Oh, well, it is Easter. Very nice of them. Traditional, you see, because they were packed in Austria, so... Oh, very nice. Oh, well. Jackie, what colour's your egg? Purple. Oh, yeah. Hope I get a yellow one. I didn't. Mine was green. It's a tradition in Germanic countries to just paint hard-boiled eggs at Easter time. That's a driver. Even the drivers have to eat at this service station in the middle of the plain.
And then it's time
to get on our way and to help time go by, a little bit of in-flight entertainment. Of course it would infringe copyright to show you extracts of a real film, but real films were shown.
This is the
video of the school's Red Nose Day Review, which was very successful, and so we thought we'd show it on the bus as well. Of course, if anyone wants to hire the video, see the whole show for a small fee, which goes towards comic relief, just contact the school. I thought I'd get a plug in there. Sorry about that. Of course, it won't happen when the school's got its proper editing machine, but in the meantime, we have to make do.
And so to
Rome.
On our way, we
passed a number of very strange sights, like this village on a hill, and it seemed to be almost in ruins.
Except you can see some
washing and some scaffolding there. Very odd.
After this traffic
jam, we pulled in
to fill up with
diesel, and of course the tank of a coach is much bigger than that of a car.
There's already
68, 69, 70 litres gone in. By the time we'd finished, we'd got 205 litres. I joked with the drivers about how many coupons they got for it, but in fact, they were given a bottle of wine for all that diesel, so that was quite nice, wasn't it?
And then we arrived
at our hotel near Rome. There's people in there who will tell you what room you're in.
104.
Oh, people out there have told you what room you're in, okay. 104.
Is it on the ground floor? Mr. Keith will show you which direction you go and tell him you're what.
And the next morning
we got to Rome, over the river Tiber, not very pleasant looking.
And then this magnificent view
of the Dome of St. Peter's
as we approached it
from the south.
Really quite an
impressive view.
Then began
the first of a long series of getting out and getting into the coach. This is the window from which the Pope blesses the huge crowds that gather
in St.
Peter's Square.
And there it is.
Still lots and lots of seats there left over from the blessing that he gave only a day or two earlier. Square surrounded by these dozens of sculptures, all different, painstakingly done.
Magnificent
ceiling underneath the balcony that the Pope gives his blessing from.
Some of
the girls decided they'd have a photograph taken inside.
And this is
looking up into the Dome of St. Peter's, and unfortunately the video camera just couldn't cope with the focus. And this is a rare shot.
Are you taking a photo? Thank you.
Mr. Thomas spending some money.
And it looks like
lunchtime for this horse.
Meanwhile, Mr.
Keith decided to play in the Rome traffic.
And while they were waiting,
the coach drivers picked up a parking ticket. There it is.
They reckon they'll put
that on the notice board back at their depot.
And then it was lunchtime
for us. Oh, there's a drink in there. Not a lot else.
There's 2 rolls.
Where's that open bread roll? I can't see it. Oh, I see. Oh, look at that. Yum. After lunch, we got to the Trevi Fountains, and what a disappointment that was. Because look, empty.
No water
to throw 3 coins into. No water running.
And this immense lattice work
of scaffolding.
So goodness
knows what they were doing, but it was obviously some kind of
to the
fountains so much,
but of all those
columns
in the building behind.
So this was a great disappointment
to us,
because it is one of Rome's more pleasant sights. Strange enough, there were lots of Romans and tourists sitting around it, still looking at it. So where do we go next? That's why Mr. Keast is looking at the map.
And the next stop was the Spanish Steps, where there were loads and loads of artists willing to do cartoons of you, or proper portraits of you,
at quite a reasonable price. 10,000 lira for a caricature that this girl's having done.
About
£4.33.
And you see all
the artists and lots of paintings, and lots of people just sitting there doing nothing in particular. This was an unexpected surprise down a side street as we were heading back to the coach, which then took us to the Colosseum. I couldn't resist these two. Just have a quick practice lick. Go on. Let's have a go. Go on, another one. It's all the colours in it. I mean, look at all the colours in there. Look at it.
That's brilliant. I've got the practice shot. And then, of course, everybody else wanted one. And then we actually walked a couple of hundred yards to the Colosseum itself. And what a fantastic looking thing it is. I think we were all supposed to be keeping together in a group. Me with the camera got separated. Of course, when you're on holiday, you always have a bit of fun. Oh, the sound's always on.
Oh, good. Right. Going through the fire gates, Mr. A. Parks, with his trident, broomstick, and net. Going through the near door, Mr. Trust, with his usual weapon, an unsheathed tongue tipped with venom. Taylor's here.
Pillars here, which I presume are just as old. Now that's one of two chariots on top of the Italian National Maritime Museum. I don't really know why I took this shot unless it is a real Roman road. This is the hollow base of the Colosseum. Used to be boarded over, but they used to flood it sometimes to stage sea battles. And of course, if one team lost one of its galleons, they could always bring on a sub. Sorry about that. And this. We're just speaking of nice broad tone, you know. First Lions School House, right?
Anyone who refused to enter the arena was sent for a whipping. At half time, they used to buy Christian burgers and hot lions.
Now, Mr. Parks, you can see what happens when you send people on holiday. Messi, there he is.
Mr. Who?
No, that's Doctor Who. Yes, well, presumably the children had all enjoyed themselves in their own way. Some of them certainly look quite thoughtful.
On the bus and told them about the book. Yeah. They've been brought up alone. She only had a side.
So many of the Oriental visitors like to have their group photos taken like a team photo. We noticed that. This lot are just being given a guided tour. Some more thoughtful members of our party. And that's Mrs. Keast on the left and Mrs. Trust on the right, and they don't know where we are. They're looking for us. They've seen us. The camera shakes because I waved to them. And yes, I get a wave back. Another group photograph. An incredible place for its age. I wonder where the idea comes from to have a white helmet like our English Bobby's helmet. Unlike so many places abroad, we find that you can still catch a tram in Rome. One city's traffic jams very. If they were particularly enthusiastic.
Do you think they're sure?
That's obviously your average top-tooth. Oh, I was shaking hands with somebody inside now. Mafia.
They just say, yeah, that's one we were caught by.
Oh, yes.
The steps.
Yes, I know.
You have to swing
This is the famous forum, of course, but it's so badly presented.
And how about this?
For a little bit of enterprise?
I wonder if he's on a youth
experience scheme or something.
And look at this, a
Moto Guzzi motorbike. What a fantastic machine. I wouldn't look so miserable if that was the bike I was given to ride.
A very odd thing
about the main roads in Italy. Look at all the adverts. Deliberately put there for drivers, I suppose, and their passengers, but drivers are bound to read them as well, apart from all the normal sort of signs like those.
And they're on the other side
of the road as well, so you're obviously supposed to look both sides to read the adverts. I just can't imagine that ever being allowed in this country.
I wonder how
many accidents can be attributed to drivers having their attention distracted by the adverts.
Meanwhile, close to our
hotel, we had to negotiate this incredibly narrow little bridge.
Sorry about that. And you see
even more adverts. They're even closer together on the minor roads.
Presumably they
assume you're not going so fast, so you can read more of them.
Very strange.
And so to pasta.
No, a little notice in the window here saying the light is poor. What it's actually saying, I can read it. I mean, it says in the top corner that I'm recording, and the bottom corner it says, I really don't think there's enough light, Mr. Trust. Well, I'm paraphrasing it. She didn't quite say that. Jolly good. I don't think it's going to come out. Well, do just carry on naturally.
Next day we set off
to head south
towards Naples. But before we got very far, we had to negotiate
this particular
little obstacle.
A wide coach
and a wide lorry
on a very narrow
road.
However, this was just
a small taste of what was to come. We get onto Rome's equivalent of the M25, and there's that view of St. Peter's in the distance.
And the road ahead. A market garden.
You see, they live just the same as us.
And they have
traffic jams. Which speed up and then
slow down
again. Still, we did have music to stop us getting too bored. Some traffic tries overtaking on the hard shoulder, just like in England. Mr. Keasty.
All the way the time
for him, I suppose. Perhaps it's better to say it's an ideal opportunity, because the coach isn't rocking around so fast. Well, there was hot drinks on board,
and also cold
drinks. So it's hardly surprising that quite a few times people had to make use of the mobile facilities of the bus.
The little tiny
toilet. Very cramped. The biggest enemy on one of these trips is boredom, and so
kids either sleep
or listen to their Walkmans, or else they occupy themselves in any one of a number of ways just to pass the time. they talked to a travelling companion. These two sixth formers were very good at passing up the bus every so often with certain types of sustenance. Difficult to put your makeup on when the bus goes through a tunnel, of course. The supplies of crisps and drinks that Mr. Thomas and Mr. Keith put on board show definite signs of having been got at. We needed these because it was unexpectedly hot, but we didn't need all those anoraks, so they were stuffed out of the way. The translating machine? What's he thinking about? What's she thinking about? And some people seem to spend an age on the toilet. Look at that. We had a radio, of course, as you heard, and Mr. Thomas occasionally checking that everyone was all right, not being sick perhaps, or feeling sick, or asleep. This is a toll gate, something we don't have on English roads unless you're crossing the Forth Bridge or the Severn Bridge or the Tamar Bridge even. But on the continent they have them every so often on the motorways, and when you come off the motorway system you come out through gates as well. But this was coming off so that we could make our way up to Monte Cassino. The road climbs higher. And higher. And higher. And higher. This is the cemetery of the Polish soldiers who died storming the hill that Monte Cassino is on. They didn't come the way we came. They had to come straight up. Cassino was a very important strategic point on the holding up the Allied advance up Italy. And you can see that from the monastery there is this commanding view across the valley, so that the Germans here could have seen all the movements going on and directed all the fire they wanted. So it was important to the Allies to remove the Germans from the monastery. And those included the Poles, a lot of whom died and are buried in the cemetery over on the hillside facing the monastery. Of course, by the time they stormed the monastery, it had been completely destroyed by bombs. It was a controversial decision to bomb the monastery. But when it was taken,
There were
no Germans here, just some monks, and then a lot of refugees from the town of Cassino.
The place was
completely destroyed, and the first 12 bombs fell in this square
beneath this
balustrade here. Now he's listening to his own personal stereo, but he is listening to the stereo of the person sitting behind him. There's the wire going through. And is that somebody's foot asleep?
Cheese again.
Yes, you guessed it. Lunchtime on the road down to Naples.
And we could soon
see Vesuvius in the distance there.
In the foreground,
some rather unsavoury looking flats. Another toll gate.
And we're on our
way again.
Vesuvius
always
getting closer
and closer.
But some of the
buildings around it not looking all that pleasant.
Look at
those.
Nice
part of the world to live in, but not a nice place to live.
Someone can snooze
whilst Vesuvius is still brooding there.
These are the
hills of Amalfi, and we got turned back here. We thought we were about half an hour away from the hotel, but no.
The
road they'd driven along before a couple of years ago
had become one
way for foreign coaches, so we had to go all the way round.
A local football
ground.
Not looking all that
good as a playing surface, is it?
Not that woman's stick flying in, could
Where's your stick, brother?
You couldn't run over a dog.
When they have a tunnel like that, and these spongy little roads we've been going up.
Yeah.
Millions of pounds spent on that tunnel.
They can't afford a dog like this.
Very spectacular though. All those sticks down there are actually where there are lemon trees growing, and those sticks carry nets to shade them and protect them from the birds.
These two are
obviously
enjoying
the fantastic view.
But they didn't really
choose a very sensible place to park their car, did they?
Yes, it is that.
Some of the hairpins were extremely sharp.
And at this one,
we had to do a 3-point turn.
Or was it a 5-point?
Or was it a 5-point turn?
I can't remember.
This side, John.
Cover this side. Tell me what.
Nice you right, sir.
Have I got any more?
Yeah.
Huh? How much?
Perfect. That's it.
I don't know. I gotta go back. I got the post out here as well.
Now, what would you prefer, Dorothy? Looking down over there, or eating that beef the other night at the restaurant?
I wonder if the driver's got much time to actually appreciate the view.
Still haven't got it. Tell me when I've got to stop right there.
eventually get there. And all the cases are unloaded. This is at the hotel at Maori on the Amalfi Coast. This did turn out to be a very nice hotel indeed. Here's one of the rooms.
Quite pleasant. Out here. Oops. Right. Start again. And out here. The balcony. Swimming pool. And somebody sawing up some metal in the background. Now then. Of course they've got a loo, haven't they? Whoops. Yes, open the door and put the light on. That's it. Okay. Foundation, shower, loo, and something to wash your feet in. Yeah. Very good. The viewfinder tells me I'm not actually going to get much of a picture here. This is just to show that while some of the rooms had showers only, others had baths. A bit hit and miss really. But they all have balconies. Here we are in another room.
Although I was wrong. This room didn't have a balcony. But it did have a very nice view of the swimming pool.
And beyond the buildings. Mountains. No, that's worth £4.33. So the 5,000 lira ones are worth about £2.16. Then we have the lovely 1,000 lira notes. 1,000 lira worth 43 pence. Then the coins, that's 500 lira, 200 lira, the brown one, 100 lira, 50 lira, and then 10 lira. So 1,000 lira is worth 43. Having all these enormous numbers. It could seem to be able to get used to it. Fortunately, having big numbers, I think it makes everything sound more expensive and stops them spending their money unnecessarily.
And after a nice bath and a good night's sleep, we collect our packed lunches to head for Vesuvius and Pompeii. And aren't they natty little carrier bags compared to some of the other things we've had our packed lunches in? Well, this is the road winding up the side of Vesuvius, and then at one point it actually goes right alongside a lava flow.
What you're going through is the crater. That's the crater.
And here we are at the top looking down. And Mr. Thomas, always managing to find strange people, finds a strange little guide who explained to us that there had actually been an earthquake there 2 days before we got there. I'm glad it wasn't the day we got there. These fumaroles, well, you used to be able to go down and sort of stand by them, but you can't do that now. Because the temperature of the water in them has gone up, or rather the temperature of the steam has gone up from 100 a couple of years ago to 150 degrees centigrade now. And so they're rather afraid there's going to be something happening in the not too distant future. This is the view from the top looking over towards Naples. And on the way down, well, one of the bends proved to be quite a steep one as well. was next stop Pompeii. A short walk from the car park round to the actual ruins themselves, and then it was the inevitable lure of the souvenir stalls. My first stop was the amphitheatre. It could hold 12,000 spectators, and all the dignitaries would sit in the first few rows, and there was their own private way of getting to the front few rows. This is Mr. Thomas, perhaps trying to imagine what it was like to be in the centre of the arena when it was full. There's no underground chambers of this amphitheatre, and it's thought that at this time combat against wild beasts hadn't been thought of. This is a typical street in Pompeii, but unfortunately they weren't all open for us to go along to. This is the greater theatre, which in the summer is used to stage live performances, so there are these metal supports you can see amongst the grass for putting benches on in the summer. A view of Vesuvius that caused all the damage, and the plaster casts of some of the victims and some of the urns. The victims' bodies were burned by the heat of their pumice and ashes. But when excavations began, they found the spaces occupied by the bodies, and these were filled with plaster, and that's how these casts were formed. This is the temple of Lares, a god of the home, and this is the temple of Apollo. Vesuvius in the background there again. And lastly, a simple shop. There on that simple stone counter 2,000 years ago, people bought and sold things, and perhaps lent across and exchanged a bit of gossip. Very simple shop. On the way back, we had a superb view of Vesuvius across the Bay of Naples.
This policeman seems to be giving us a walking police escort. Oh, they're clear to go. They're clear to go. This was just a sample of the problems that we were going to encounter on the way back to the hotel from Pompeii. Oh, where did he come from? No helmet, notice. And look, another school party. I wonder if they were German. It was a German make bus, but it was probably an Italian registration bus, because the local authorities had tried to make it difficult for foreign visitors to use their own coaches by making this stretch of road one way from west to east. And this is why we would turn back when we first arrived. The road is very narrow. But just banning foreign coaches didn't really make it any easier to drive along it, because Italian coaches could go in both directions, and as you will see, we encountered quite a problem later on. Converting that way. Was that Peter?
Oh, it's only me. It's only me from across the sea.
What a view, and I'm taking that out the back of the bus. Because at this point we actually had to reverse. This is under the direction of one of the two drivers, Mike. Because this is what was coming the other way. A local service bus. this chap obligingly reversed for us.
We didn't have much choice.
We didn't have much choice, really.
But then he gave a
strange sort of wave which seemed to indicate that there was something big behind him.
So Mike, who
was in the courier seat that day, decided to walk off down the road
to see what he could
find whilst we waited.
Now the camera
wobbles a lot here because I was changing my position in the bus, moving forward a bit
to see
if I could get a better view.
Now Mike can see
round that next corner. What does that mean?
I
think he means
it's hopeless.
Hang on, two cars.
Come round the corner.
I think it was two anyway.
If only we could
read what he was
thinking at
the moment.
Now another
movement of my position with the camera in the bus.
And while I'm doing that,
a car has gone past us.
And is on its way down. Two more coming up. The inevitable
moped with a
helmetless rider. And there goes the car that passed us.
You watch its lights.
Now he's coming back. Just when you thought it was safe to come round the next hairpin. That's obviously
what Mike had seen.
How on earth
were we going to get past that on this particular piece of road? Look at that white car. He thinks he can get round the outside.
But what actually happened
was the conductor got out.
Because those blue buses
had conductors.
And here he is. Come on, he says. Come on. We got to move.
He
doesn't look that
happy, does he?
And where did he come from? Gracious me. Well, you look out for him.
We'll see a bit more of him later on.
Meanwhile,
we'll follow
the conductor down. I saw that Alex come up and brace himself, but not well enough.
Don't worry about it.
A useful suggestion from Mr. Thomas in a minute or two.
This one.
Here it comes.
Now, John, throw a bucket of water over it and shrink it. Back of the mirrors, I think this is going to be.
Now the camera moves again a bit because again I'm trying to get a decent view, and it's obvious that the mirrors, which stick out further than anything else, are going to be the problem.
And indeed,
you see Mike's hand come along as he tries to sort of bend it out of the way.
And you get a good view.
In that mirror, don't you? Just how close the buses are.
Then the camera goes down,
and there's a lot of wobbling, and I cut because what I actually did was lean out the window of the coach and take our mirror off.
And I
handed it
to Mike,
and there it is in his hand.
Of course, he's trying to get
us to turn, but there's not a lot of room to turn.
Poor old John
behind the wheel
hasn't got a lot
of room to manoeuvre.
Mike,
meanwhile,
paces to and
fro
like a lion
in a cage. Told you we see that fellow again. You try and understand these hand signals.
I don't know what John
the driver made of them.
Run over him.
What, you? Chaos?
chassis.
This man was the master of the Italian gesture, which is so expressive, but which only really the Latins can do successfully. He did keep us amused.
I can't hold the camera steady. I'm laughing through that. This probably won't seem at all funny to people just watching it, but at the time, it was really hilarious. We just didn't know how it was going to end. At this point, Mike decided that he was going to get out to see if he could resolve the situation. I wonder what they said to one another then. Look, he's coming back to help us again. Watch his face.
It's the medallion.
By now the whole village was coming out, and look at the traffic jam. Still lots of traffic stuck, because that other blue bus you see was still not far behind us. Mr. Keith turned round to have a look to see how far it was behind us, and I told him he'd stuck his face right in front of the camera, so he did again. Here comes Mike running back. He could be doing some training for the London Marathon. Meanwhile, that arm belonged to Mr. Thomas, who decided he'd go and get that Italian chap who was trying to help us a cup of coffee for his troubles.
I wish we could record the conversation between Mike and Tonto there. I shouldn't really be using all this footage, but I just can't. Ouch. That's alright, I've got 9 more left.
That was Mr. Thomas coming back with a cup of coffee. He stepped on my toe as he got back to his seat. Well, that's all the footage I could spare for that, but we did get back to the hotel that evening, okay? And all too soon the next day we were heading back towards Innsbruck, the first leg of our journey home. The food now really does look as if it's been got at. At Innsbruck we stopped off at the Olympic ski jump. There it is. Pretty horrifying. Makes you respect Eddie Edwards a little bit more. Because I shouldn't like to have to come down there. And here's some evidence that there was some Olympic honours for British people in the past. This was the 1964 Olympics, and Britain got the gold medal for the two-man bob, Spire Bob. Nash and Dixon. Gold medals for Great Britain. Very nice. And that is the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Castle. Now, you take children all the way to Pompeii, Vesuvius, the Amalfi Coast, Rome. And what do they remember?
She's not going to say the gorgeous waiter, so I'll say it for her. Now then, come on, what impressed you most? Going on the motorboat to Capri. I see. What about you? The what? The a taxi ride around Capri. Yes, we did that. The boat to Capri. Yeah, it's pretty. The camera didn't go, isn't it? Now then, what about you two? Nothing impressed you?
Sleeping was fun.
Sleeping was fun. What about you? The swimming pool, right? That's fine. That's fine. What about you? The swimming pool. Going around Capri in the taxi, yeah?
Going to Capri and the beach and the weather.
Lisa? Swimming pool, right. What about you?
I like the hotel in Maori.
You did? Yeah, I like that as well. It was good, wasn't it?
Chips.
Okay.
Heat and yummy.
Heat and the island of Capri, yes. Now then, what about you?
Pompeii and Capri.
Pompeii impressed you, and Capri, yeah?
And Pompeii and Capri as well.
Pompeii and Capri. Yes, I like Pompeii, that's why I went back there again. What about you? The swimming pool. Capri. All these people like Capri, yeah? Can you mean it? Sorry?
I like Capri.
You like Capri as well?
I like Maori Hotel.
Maori in the hotel, yeah?
I like Capri best.
Capri, yeah?
I like Rome.
You like Rome? No counting the taste. Sorry about that. Yes, what about you? You like Rome. Oh, well, there you are, so you're not alone.
Where the policeman's directing us along the way and all that.
Policeman directing us along the way. Yes, I remember that. Capri.
Pompeii and Austria.
Pompeii and Austria, yeah, I must admit, Austria is very beautiful, isn't it?
It's like when we look down Vesuvius.
Look down Vesuvius, yes? Capri, yeah?
The boat trip round Capri and Vatican.
The boat trip round Capri and Vatican, yeah?
The boat trip to Capri.
Yeah. Boat trip to Capri and the Vatican.
And what about the teachers? And what about the teachers?
The absence of some members of staff.
Oh, well, I'll take that as a compliment. Mr. Keith, what did you think? What impressed you most?
The cabbage soup.
The cabbage soup. Well, there we have a real patrician speaking there. Of all those things we've seen, the cabbage soup impressed Mr. Keith the most.